4 torpedoes slam into the Japanese transport. Morton hears the impacts through Wahoo's hull. 4 metallic clangs, loud as church bells. 0 explosions. Nothing. The transport keeps moving like nothing happened. This is impossible. January 31st, 1942. Lieutenant Commander Dudley Mush Morton stands frozen at the periscope, staring at a 6,000-ton freighter that should be sinking right now, should be burning, should be dead in the water with Japanese sailors abandoning ship. Instead, it's steaming north at 10 knots like his torpedoes were made of rubber. His executive officer breaks the silence. "Sir, did we miss?" "We didn't miss." Morton keeps his eye pressed to the periscope. "I heard 4 hits. You heard them too. 4 direct hits. The sonar operator confirms it. 4 impacts, Captain. Clean hits along the waterline. Then why the hell isn't it sinking?" Morton is 28 years old. This is his first war patrol as commanding officer of a submarine. His first chance to prove he belongs here. His career, his reputation, everything he has worked for depends on this patrol report showing results. And he just fired 4 Mark 14 torpedoes worth $10,000 each at point-blank range and accomplished absolutely nothing. Reload tubes 1 through 4 were firing again. "Sir, if the first spread didn't work." His executive officer stops when he sees Morton's expression. "Reload. Now." USS Wahoo has been stalking this Japanese convoy for 3 hours. 6 cargo ships heading north, probably carrying supplies to Japanese forces in the Philippines. No destroyer escort visible. Perfect targets. Morton spent his entire approach calculating firing solutions, positioning Wahoo at 1,800 yards, 0 angle on the bow. The geometry was flawless. Everything by the book. 4 torpedoes, 4 certain kills, 4 hits, 0 sinks. Something is catastrophically wrong. Morton fires torpedo number 5 at 1,400 yards. He watches through the periscope as the Mark 14 runs straight and true, 46 knots, wakeless, invisible. It strikes the transport's hull amidships. The sound reverberates through the submarine. No explosion. The torpedo bounces off and sinks into the Pacific. Torpedo 6, same result. Impact, no detonation. Torpedo 7 explodes prematurely 50 yards before reaching the target. The blast sends up a column of water, but does 0 damage to the ship. Morton fires torpedoes 8, 9, and 10. 2 impacts. 1 explosion against the hull that creates a small fire the Japanese crew extinguishes in minutes. The convoy escapes. 10 torpedoes fired, 8 confirmed hits. 2 explosions, 0 ships sunk. Morton surfaces Wahoo after dark. His hands are shaking, not from fear, from rage. He walks to the radio room and composes a message to Commander Submarine Force Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. The words come out clipped, angry. Fired 10. Mark 14 torpedoes at enemy convoy. Point-blank range. 8 hits confirmed by sonar. 2 explosions. 0 sinks. Torpedoes are defective. Request immediate investigation. The radio operator looks at the message. "Sir, are you sure you want to send this?" "Send it." The response arrives 3 hours later. "Torpedoes functioning as designed. Check your firing solutions." Morton reads it twice. Then he crumples the paper and throws it across the control room. "My firing solutions are perfect. The torpedoes are broken." His executive officer speaks carefully. "Sir, if headquarters says the torpedoes are fine, then headquarters is lying." February 10th, 1942. Pearl Harbor Submarine Base. Conference room packed with submarine commanders who all look like they have seen ghosts. Morton is here. So is Commander Rin Lee Morton from USS Skipjack. Lieutenant Commander Lawrence Daspit from USS Tenosa. 7 others. They all have the same nightmare stories. Skipjack fired 16 torpedoes at a Japanese cruiser. 14 hits confirmed, 0 sinks. Trout attacked a destroyer at 800 yards. 6 torpedoes, 4 hits, 1 explosion that failed to penetrate the hull. Trigger ambushed a convoy off truck. 15 torpedoes, 9 impacts, 2 explosions. The numbers are staggering. Across the Pacific Fleet, submarine commanders are firing torpedoes that hit their targets and refuse to explode. The weapons cost $10,000 each. They represent 15 years of development by the Bureau of Ordnance. They are supposed to be the most sophisticated torpedoes in the world, equipped with magnetic influence exploders that detonate 10 feet beneath a ship's keel, breaking its back without needing a direct hit. In theory, the Mark 14 torpedo is perfect. In combat, it is killing American submarine crews by giving them false confidence in weapons that do not work. Rear Admiral Thomas Withers, Commander Submarines Pacific Fleet, stands at the front of the room. His face is red. Gentlemen, the Mark 14 represents $12 million in taxpayer money. The Bureau of Ordnance has assured me these weapons are flawless. If you are experiencing malfunctions, the problem is operator error. Dudley Morton stands up. His voice is cold. Admiral, with respect, we are not missing. We are hitting. The torpedoes simply are not exploding. The magnetic exploder is malfunctioning, Rinley Morton adds. We need to deactivate it and use only the contact exploder. Withers slams his hand on the table. The magnetic exploder is the most sophisticated weapon system in the Navy. It detonates beneath the target's keel, using the ship's own magnetic field as a trigger. The math is perfect. The physics is sound, except it doesn't work in combat. Dudley Morton's voice rises. Every submarine in this room has fired torpedoes that failed to detonate. We are hitting targets from 500 yards. We can hear the impacts. There is no explosion. Are you suggesting that submarines from Pearl Harbor to Brisbane are all experiencing the same operator error? I am suggesting, Withers says slowly, that submarine commanders are making excuses for poor marksmanship. The room erupts, voices shouting, fists pounding tables. These men have risked their lives on war patrols. They have stalked enemy convoys through minefields. They have dodged depth charges. They have done everything right, and their torpedoes betrayed them. A new voice cuts through the chaos. If the torpedoes are flawless, then test them. Everyone turns. Commander Charles Lockwood recently arrived from Australia to take command of submarine operations in the Southwest Pacific, stands in the doorway. He is 52 years old, a veteran submariner with cold eyes and zero patience for bureaucracy. Admiral Withers stares at him. Commander Lockwood, the Bureau of Ordnance has already tested the Mark 14 extensively. In controlled conditions at Newport Torpedo Station, Lockwood says. Not in combat. Not against actual targets. Not with magnetic exploders armed. Silence. Are you suggesting the Bureau falsified test data? I am suggesting they never tested the weapon under real conditions because torpedoes cost $10,000 each, and the Bureau did not want to waste money blowing them up. Withers' face goes white. This meeting is over. Lockwood does not move. With respect, Admiral, this meeting is not over until we address why submarines are returning from patrol with unused torpedoes because commanders have lost confidence in the weapons. Withers walks out. The submarine commanders sit in stunned silence. Finally, Dudley Morton speaks. So what do we do? Lockwood looks at the assembled officers. You keep firing. You keep documenting every failure. You keep writing patrol reports that make the Bureau look incompetent. Eventually, someone in Washington will have to admit the torpedoes are broken. March 1942. Bureau of Ordnance, Washington, D.C. Rear Admiral William Blandy, Chief of Bureau of Ordnance, reads another patrol report claiming Mark 14 failures. He writes in the margin, "Commanding officer lacks understanding of torpedo mechanics." Blandy has a problem. The Mark 14 torpedo consumed 15 years and $12 million in development. The magnetic exploder was his project. He personally certified it combat ready. If the Mark 14 is defective, his career is over. Therefore, the Mark 14 cannot be defective. When Commander Submarines Pacific submits a formal request to conduct live fire tests of the magnetic exploder, Blandy denies it. Reason given, torpedoes are too expensive to waste on unnecessary testing. When submarine commanders request permission to deactivate the magnetic exploder, Blandy refuses. Reason given, the magnetic exploder is essential to torpedo effectiveness. When engineering officers suggest the exploders might be calibrated for the Earth's magnetic field at Newport, Rhode Island, instead of the different field strength in the Pacific Ocean, Blandy dismisses it as scientifically impossible. The Bureau of Ordnance has 15 years of development. A handful of submarine commanders are reporting problems. Obviously, the submarine commanders are wrong. By June 1942, American submarines have fired 1,247 torpedoes in combat. Hit rate based on sonar and visual confirmation, 62%. Over 773 torpedoes struck enemy ships. Explosion rate, 23%. Only 178 torpedoes detonated. More than 600 torpedoes hit their targets and failed to explode. The submarines are not missing. The torpedoes are failing, and men are dying because of it. July 20th, 1942. USS Tinosa, off Truk Atoll. Lieutenant Commander Lynn Daspit tracks a whale tanker through his periscope. Tonan Maru No. 3, 19,000 tons, fully loaded with fuel oil, riding so low the deck is almost underwater. The tanker is alone, no escorts, moving at 10 knots. This should be simple. Daspit fires 2 torpedoes from 200 yards. Both hit. Both explode. The tanker catches fire but keeps moving. He fires 2 more. Both hit. Both explode. The tanker is burning but will not sink. 2 more torpedoes. 2 hits. 2 explosions. The ship lists but continues. 2 more. 2 hits. 2 explosions. 9 torpedoes. 9 hits. 9 explosions. Tonan Maru No. 3 is a floating inferno listing 20 degrees but refuses to die. Daspit has 6 torpedoes remaining. He maneuvers Tinosa perpendicular to the tanker's path, 875 yards, perfect geometry. He fires torpedo 10, hit, no explosion. 11, hit, no explosion. 12, hit, no explosion. 13, 14, 15, 3 hits, 0 explosions. 15 torpedoes fired, 15 hits confirmed, 9 explosions, 6 duds, against a stationary burning target that should have sunk after the first hit. Daspit surfaces and orders his crew to remove the exploder from torpedo 16, the one he did not fire. He wraps it in oilcloth. He stores it in his cabin. When Tinosa returns to Pearl Harbor on August 3rd, Daspit walks into Admiral Withers' office and drops the exploder mechanism on his desk. I fired 15 torpedoes at a crippled ship from less than 1,000 yards. 9 exploded. 6 did not. Here is the exploder from the torpedo I did not fire. I want to know why 40% of my weapons failed. Withers stares at the mechanism for a long moment. His face is grey. Get me Commander Lockwood, now. This is the moment everything changes. But the fight has just begun, and the Bureau of Ordnance is about to declare war on the truth. August 12th, 1942. Pearl Harbor. Commander Charles Lockwood holds a Mark 14 torpedo exploder in his hands. 6 pounds of machined steel and copper, $1,000, and this mechanism has killed more American submariners than the Japanese Navy ever will. He knows this with absolute certainty. He also knows that admitting it out loud could end his career. The exploder came from USS Tinosa's torpedo number 16. The one Commander Daspit refused to fire after watching 15 others fail. Lockwood takes it apart piece by piece in his workshop. Magnetic sensor, pristine. Firing pin, moves freely. Detonator, properly seated. According to every specification in the Bureau of Ordnance Technical Manual, this exploder is flawless, which means the specifications are killing people. Lockwood is 52 years old. He has commanded submarines, destroyers, shore stations. He has seen men die from enemy shells, mechanical failures, drownings, fires, but he has never seen men die because their own weapons betrayed them and their own commanders refused to believe it. His hands shake as he reassembles the exploder mechanism. Not from age, from rage. 3 weeks ago, USS Grunion disappeared off the coast of Alaska. 42 men. Commander Jim Abeli radioed that he attacked 3 Japanese destroyers, fired multiple torpedoes. No confirmed sinks. Then Grunion vanished. Search planes found nothing. No wreckage, no survivors, no oil slicks, just empty ocean. Lockwood keeps Grunion's last patrol report in his desk. Abele wrote in careful capital letters across the bottom of the firing data sheet. Torpedoes, hitting but not exploding. Magnetic exploder, suspected faulty. Request permission to deactivate. Permission denied by Bureau of Ordnance. Grunion sailed with magnetic exploders armed. Grunion never came home. 42 men, including Jim Abel, who had a wife and 2 children in Connecticut, and kept their photograph taped inside his periscope housing, where he could see their faces every time he looked through it. Lockwood sets down the exploder mechanism. His vision blurs. He wipes his eyes and picks up the phone. "Get me Admiral Withers. Now." When Withers answers, Lockwood does not bother with military protocol. "Admiral, I need authorization to conduct live fire tests of the Mark 14 magnetic exploder. Real tests, against actual ship hulls, with warheads armed. Silence on the other end." Then Withers speaks carefully. "Commander, the Bureau of Ordnance has already tested these weapons extensively. The Bureau tested dummy warheads by dropping them in the ocean and checking if the magnetic sensor triggered. Lockwood's voice is ice. They never detonated actual exploders against ship hulls. They never verified the weapon works under combat conditions. They assumed theoretical performance matched reality. They were wrong. Those tests would be expensive." Lockwood slams his fist on the desk. "Those tests would save lives, Admiral. Submarines are returning from patrol with unused torpedoes because commanders no longer trust the weapons. We have fired over 1,200 torpedoes with a 60% hit rate and 23% explosion rate. That means 600 torpedoes struck enemy ships and failed to detonate. 600 weapons. That is not operator error. That is systematic failure, and men are dying because the Bureau refuses to admit it." Another long silence. "If the Bureau of Ordnance discovers we are conducting unauthorized tests, then the Bureau can explain why they spent 15 years and $12 million developing a weapon that kills submarines instead of ships." Lockwood hangs up before Withers can respond. September 1942. Lockwood orders all submarine commanders in the Pacific to deactivate magnetic exploders immediately and use only contact exploders. The order is technically illegal. The Bureau of Ordnance has exclusive authority over torpedo modifications. Lockwood does not care. He types the order himself on his manual typewriter, signs it in pen, and has it transmitted to every submarine from Australia to Alaska. The results are immediate. Explosion rates climb from 23% to 31%. Still catastrophic, but submarines begin sinking Japanese ships again. USS Silverside's torpedoes a transport off truck. USS Guardfish destroys a tanker near Rabaul. USS Drum cripples a cruiser. Not many sinks, but enough to prove the magnetic exploder was the primary killer. In Washington, D.C., Rear Admiral William Blandy receives Lockwood's report recommending permanent magnetic exploder deactivation. He reads it 3 times. Then he crumples the paper and throws it in his trash can. Blandy is 55 years old. His office walls are covered with citations, achievement plaques, photographs of him shaking hands with admirals and congressmen. The Mark 14 torpedo development consumed 15 years of his career. The magnetic exploder was his project. He personally certified it combat ready. He personally signed the documents declaring it flawless. If the torpedo is defective, everything on his walls means nothing. His reputation is destroyed. His career is over. He will be remembered as the man who wasted millions of dollars and killed American sailors through incompetence. Therefore, the torpedo cannot be defective. Blandy walks to his window and stares out at the Potomac River. He knows submarine commanders are reporting failures. He has read the patrol reports. Torpedoes passing underneath targets. Torpedoes exploding prematurely. Torpedoes striking hulls and bouncing off like stones. Hundreds of failures documented by dozens of commanders. The pattern is undeniable, but if he admits the torpedo is broken, his career ends. If he fights back, blames the submarine commanders, insists the weapons are perfect, he might survive. The choice is simple: his career or the truth. Blandy makes his decision. He returns to his desk and writes a memo to the Chief of Naval Operations, stating that Commander Lockwood lacks understanding of torpedo mechanics and should be relieved of command for unauthorized weapons modifications. Then he sends a message to Pacific Fleet Command. Magnetic exploder deactivation is unauthorized and prohibited. Submarine commanders will reactivate magnetic exploders immediately or face courts-martial for sabotage. October 9th, 1942, Pearl Harbor. Lockwood reads Blandy's message and starts laughing. It is not a pleasant sound. His executive officer looks worried. "Sir, if you ignore this order, they will relieve you." Good. Lockwood tosses the message in his trash. Maybe my replacement will care more about careers than dead submariners. Reactivate the magnetic exploders. Sir, the torpedoes will stop working. I know, but now we have proof the Bureau is lying. Lockwood picks up Grunion's patrol report. Jim Abelli's handwriting is clear, precise, and eventually, someone with more authority than Blandy will demand answers. November 1942. Magnetic exploders are reactivated. Explosion rates plummet back to 23%. Patrol reports document failure after failure. And in a cramped apartment in Georgetown, Rear Admiral William Blandy sits awake at 3 in the morning reading casualty reports. USS Amberjack, lost with all hands off New Britain. Last radio message reported attacking Japanese convoy. Multiple torpedo hits, no sinks. USS Grampus, disappeared off Truk. Fired 18 torpedoes on final patrol. 4 confirmed explosions. 0 confirmed sinks. USS Triton, lost with 74 men. Final patrol report listed 15 torpedo malfunctions. Blandy knows what these reports mean. He knows the torpedo is killing submarines by giving commanders false confidence in weapons that do not work. Boats are making repeated attacks because their first spread failed. Repeated attacks mean exposure. Exposure means depth charges. Depth charges mean dead sailors. He also knows he cannot admit it. Not now. Not after fighting Lockwood. Not after insisting the weapons are perfect. The moment he admits the torpedo is defective, his career is over, and he will be remembered forever as the man responsible for every submarine loss tied to torpedo failure. Blandy walks to his bathroom and stares at himself in the mirror. His face is grey. His eyes are hollow. He looks like a dead man. He returns to his desk and writes another memo insisting the magnetic exploders are functioning properly and the problem is inadequate submarine training. Then he pours himself 3 fingers of whiskey and drinks until his hands stop shaking. January 1943. Commander Lockwood is promoted to Rear Admiral and given command of all submarine operations in the Pacific. It is either a reward for competence or an attempt to make him responsible for failures. Lockwood does not care which. The first thing he does is authorize live fire tests of the Mark 14. The Bureau of Ordnance orders him to cancel the tests. Lockwood ignores them. February 1943. Kahulawi Island, Hawaii. Lockwood stands on a cliff watching torpedo crews set up the test range. They acquired a decommissioned submarine net from Pearl Harbor. Steel mesh, 20 feet by 20 feet, heavy enough to simulate a warship hull. They anchored it 200 yards offshore in 40 feet of water. One Mark 14 torpedo sits loaded on USS Hoga, a harbor tug converted into a makeshift torpedo launch platform. Live warhead, magnetic exploder armed, set to detonate at 10 feet depth. Lockwood's executive officer stands beside him. "Sir, if this test fails, the Bureau will use it to argue for your removal." "If this test fails," Lockwood says quietly, "at least we will know why submarines are dying." They fire the torpedo at 9:15 a.m. Lockwood watches through binoculars as the Mark 14 accelerates to 46 knots and runs straight toward the net. The torpedo passes directly underneath the steel mesh. No explosion. It continues 200 yards past the target and beaches itself on Kahulawi Island's rocky shore. $3,000 of American engineering, dead on the sand. They fire a second torpedo. It detonates prematurely 50 yards before reaching the net. A column of water erupts skyward. The net is untouched. They fire a third torpedo. It passes under the net. No explosion. Beaches itself beside torpedo number 1. 3 torpedoes. 0 successful detonations. The magnetic exploder that cost $1,000 per unit and was supposed to revolutionize naval warfare is completely worthless. Lockwood lowers his binoculars. His hands are shaking again. He turns to his executive officer. Send the test results to Admiral King. Directly. Bypass the Bureau of Ordnance entirely. Sir, that will get us court-martialed, or it will fix the problem. Lockwood starts walking back to his vehicle. Right now, I do not care which. February 15th, 1943. Office of Admiral Ernest King, Commander-in-Chief, United States Fleet. King reads Lockwood's test report twice. Then he picks up the phone. Get me Admiral Blandy. Now. When Blandy answers, King speaks one sentence. Your magnetic exploders do not work. Fix them, or I will find someone who can. He hangs up without waiting for a response. Then he calls Lockwood. Deactivate the magnetic exploders. Effective immediately. I will handle the Bureau. You handle the submarines, and find out what is wrong with the contact exploders. Yes, sir. March 1943. Magnetic exploders are permanently deactivated across the Pacific Fleet. Explosion rates climb to 31%. Better, but still catastrophic. 1/3 of torpedoes that hit targets actually explode. The other 2/3 bounce off or fail to detonate. Submarine commanders write furious patrol reports. The Bureau of Ordnance continues insisting the weapons are perfect and the problem is operator error. And at Pearl Harbor submarine base, in a maintenance workshop that smells like grease and salt water, Chief Torpedoman James Taylor is reading patrol reports and thinking about firing pins, impact angles, and basic physics. He has an idea. It is a dangerous idea. It will probably get him court-martialed. But unlike the admirals in Washington, Taylor actually cares whether the torpedoes work. And he is going to test his theory tonight, whether anyone gives him permission or not. June 20th, 1943. Pearl Harbor submarine base. 11:47 p.m. Chief Torpedoman. James Taylor stands in the darkened maintenance shop, staring at a Mark 14 torpedo suspended 90 feet above his head. 3,000 pounds of steel, $10,000, and Taylor is about to drop it on concrete to see if it breaks. This will definitely get him court-martialed. His hands shake as he grips the crane remote. Not from fear, from exhaustion. Taylor has worked 16-hour days for 3 months straight, maintaining torpedoes that he knows are killing submarines. He has read every patrol report filed in the last 18 months. USS Grunion, USS Amberjack, USS Triton, 52 submarines lost, over 3,500 men dead, names, not numbers, faces in photographs, men with families. And Taylor knows with absolute certainty that the Bureau of Ordnance engineers are missing something obvious. The torpedo hangs directly above a 2-inch thick steel plate positioned on the shop floor. The plate came from the armor belt of USS Arizona, salvaged after Pearl Harbor. It is the same hardness as Japanese warship hulls. Taylor chose it deliberately. If American torpedoes cannot penetrate armor salvaged from an American battleship, they will not penetrate Japanese destroyers. Petty Officer Second Class. Robert Martinez stands beside him, watching the suspended torpedo sway slightly. Chief, if anyone finds out what we are doing, then we spend 5 years in Leavenworth for destroying Navy property. Taylor does not take his eyes off the torpedo, but if I am right, we save submarines, and if I am wrong, at least we tried. What if the torpedo explodes? It is a practice torpedo, inert warhead, no explosives. Taylor pauses. Probably will not explode. Probably. Taylor presses the release button. Worth the risk. The torpedo falls. 3,000 pounds accelerating under gravity. The shriek of metal cutting through air. It strikes the armor plate nose first at 48 miles per hour. The impact sounds like a bomb detonation. The steel plate rings like a cathedral bell. The torpedo bounces 6 inches, crashes down again. The shop lights flicker and die. Somewhere outside, a guard shouts, asking what the hell that noise was. Taylor and Martinez freeze in absolute darkness. Footsteps approach. The guard's flashlight beam sweeps across the shop windows. Martinez holds his breath. The beam moves away. The guard decides it was thunder, or maybe ordnance testing at the firing range, and returns to his patrol. The lights flicker back on. Taylor walks to the torpedo and kneels beside the nose cone. His knees crack. His back aches. He has been 37 years old for exactly 1 week and feels like he is 60. He examines the impact site with his flashlight. The nose cone is dented inward, paint scraped off, metal compressed. But the torpedo did not explode because practice torpedoes cannot explode. What Taylor cares about is inside. His hands shake as he pulls a socket wrench from his tool belt. He removes the nose cone bolts one at a time. 6 bolts, each one tight. His wrench slips twice. He curses quietly. Finally, the nose cone comes free. Inside is the contact exploder mechanism, officially designated Mark 6 Modification 0. The mechanism consists of a firing pin, a spring, an inertia weight, and a primer. When the torpedo strikes a target, the inertia weight drives the firing pin forward, crushing the primer, igniting the detonator. In theory, Taylor removes the exploder and holds it under his work light. The firing pin is bent, not broken, not jammed, bent, deformed by impact. The torpedo struck the armor plate at 48 miles per hour, and the force bent the firing pin backward instead of driving it forward into the primer. The mechanism that cost $1,000 to manufacture and was supposed to revolutionize naval warfare failed because basic physics was ignored. Martinez leans over his shoulder, staring at the bent pin. Is that what is happening in combat? Taylor nods slowly. His throat is tight. Torpedoes are designed to strike targets at shallow angles. 10 degrees, maybe 15. Glancing blows. The firing pin triggers cleanly, but when submarines fire at perpendicular angles, direct hits, 90-degree impacts, the torpedoes hit too hard. The firing pins deform. He sets down the exploder. His voice cracks. We have been training submarine commanders to achieve perfect perpendicular hits. We have been training them to fire in ways that break our own weapons. Martinez is silent for a long moment. That is insane. That is bureaucracy. Taylor stands up. His vision blurs. He wipes his eyes. We need to test this again. 10 more times. 20. Until we are absolutely certain. Chief, we barely got away with 1 drop. Then we get court-martialed together. Taylor grabs another practice torpedo from the weapons rack. But at least we will have proof that might save the next submarine. They drop 11 torpedoes that night. 11 impacts. 11 deafening crashes. The lights fail twice more. The guard investigates once, but does not enter the shop. By 4:30 a.m., Taylor has documented 9 deformed firing pins, 2 cracked inertia weights, 0 functioning exploders after perpendicular impacts. The data is overwhelming. The Mark 14 contact exploder systematically fails when torpedoes strike targets at 90-degree angles, which is exactly how submarine commanders are trained to fire. Taylor sits on the shop floor, surrounded by disassembled torpedo parts, and takes photographs with a borrowed camera. Each bent pin, each cracked component, each failure mode. Then he writes a 14-page technical report explaining the problem and proposing solutions. Strengthen the firing pin. Add a secondary spring. Modify the inertia weight angle. Total cost per torpedo, approximately $50. Total modification time, 1 hour per weapon. At 5:02 a.m., Taylor walks across the empty submarine base to Admiral Lockwood's office. His feet ache. His hands are covered in grease and blood from a cut he does not remember getting. He slides his report under Lockwood's door. Then he walks home, pours 3 fingers of cheap bourbon, drinks it standing at his kitchen sink, and waits for the MPs to arrest him. June 21st, 1943. 8:15 a.m. Admiral Lockwood arrives at his office, and finds Taylor's report on his floor. He reads it standing up. By page 3, he sits down. By page 7, his hands are shaking. By page 14, he picks up his phone. Get me Chief Torpedoman Taylor, immediately, and get me Bureau of Ordnance after that. Taylor arrives 20 minutes later. His uniform is wrinkled. His eyes are bloodshot. He stands at attention in front of Lockwood's desk, expecting to be arrested. Lockwood holds up the report. Chief, did you conduct unauthorized tests on 11 Navy torpedoes last night? Yes, sir. Practice torpedoes, sir. Not live weapons. But yes, I destroyed them without authorization. Did you photograph the evidence? Yes, sir. Did you develop engineering solutions? Yes, sir. Lockwood stares at him. Then he sets down the report. Chief Taylor, you just solved a problem that has killed hundreds of submariners. You solved it by violating every regulation in the naval manual and destroying $110,000 in government property. Do you understand that I should have you arrested? Yes, sir. Taylor's voice is steady. Worth it, sir. Lockwood almost smiles. Then his face hardens. Chief, if you ever conduct unauthorized weapons tests again without informing me first, I will personally court-martial you. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now get out of my office before I change my mind. And Chief? Lockwood picks up the report. Thank you. You probably saved 1,000 lives last night. Taylor salutes. Just doing my job, sir. Just doing your job. Lockwood watches Taylor leave. No, Chief. You did what admirals and engineers refused to do for 2 years. You ignored the rules and fixed the problem. Lockwood calls Bureau of Ordnance and reads them Taylor's report over the phone. The Bureau engineer listens without interruption. When Lockwood finishes, there is a long silence. Then the engineer speaks carefully. Admiral, that is impossible. Our computational models show the firing pin cannot deform under impact forces. Your models are wrong. Lockwood's voice is ice. I have photographic evidence of 11 deformed firing pins. I have technical data documenting systematic failure. And I have a chief torpedo man who risked his career to prove your weapons kill submarines. If we admit the contact exploder is defective, after already admitting the magnetic exploder is defective, Congress will investigate. Funding will be cut. Careers will end. Submarines are dying. Lockwood speaks slowly, deliberately. I do not care about your careers. Fix the torpedoes, or I will find someone who will. He hangs up. July 1943. Lockwood orders immediate modification of all Mark 14 contact exploders based on Taylor's specifications. Taylor supervises the work personally, training ordnance crews across the Pacific Fleet. 18-hour days, 7 days a week. Torpedoes pulled from submarines, disassembled, firing pins strengthened with hardened steel, inertia weights adjusted, springs replaced. The work consumes 3 weeks and costs $2.7 million. The Bureau of Ordnance protests. Admiral Blandy sends a furious memo demanding Lockwood cease unauthorized modifications immediately. Lockwood frames the memo on his office wall with a handwritten note underneath. This is what choosing careers over lives looks like. Blandy never responds. August 1943. USS Harder receives the first batch of modified torpedoes. Commander Samuel Dealey is skeptical, bordering on hostile. He has fired Mark 14s for 2 years. He has watched them fail repeatedly. He has filed patrol reports documenting failures that Bureau of Ordnance dismissed as operator error. He does not trust the torpedoes. He does not trust the Bureau. And he especially does not trust promises that this time the weapons actually work. But orders are orders. Harder loads the modified torpedoes and departs on patrol. August 24th, 1943. 2:37 p.m. Off Woliai Atoll. Dealey tracks a Japanese Fubuki-class destroyer through his periscope. The destroyer is alone, probably escorting a convoy that's scattered. Range 900 yards. Angle on the bow, 0 degrees. Perpendicular impact. The exact firing angle that has caused torpedo failures for 18 months. Dealey's executive officer speaks quietly. Skipper, if these torpedoes fail like the others, then we die trying. Dealey lines up the shot. Fire tubes 1 through 4. 4 torpedoes launch. 4 Mark 14s streaking toward the destroyer at 46 knots. Dealey watches through the periscope. The torpedoes strike amidships. All 4, perpendicular impacts, and all 4 explode. The destroyer does not slowly sink. It does not list and settle. It breaks in half. The bow section pitches forward. The stern rises at a 60-degree angle. 47 seconds after impact, both sections disappear beneath the Pacific. Dealey steps back from the periscope. His hands are shaking. His executive officer stares at him. "Skipper, did that just happen?" Dealey nods slowly. Then he starts laughing. Not from humor, from relief, from 2 years of rage and frustration finally releasing. He picks up the radio microphone. "Pearl Harbor, this is harder. All 4 torpedoes functioned perfectly. Destroyer destroyed. Request confirmation. This is not a dream." Lockwood's response comes through 5 minutes later. "Not a dream, Harder. The torpedoes work now. Welcome to the war." Over the next 3 months, American submarines annihilate the Japanese merchant fleet. USS Tang destroys 5 cargo ships in 1 patrol. USS Barb torpedoes a heavy cruiser and 3 transports. USS Flasher obliterates an entire convoy. The modified torpedoes work. Finally, after 2 years of systematic failure, American submarines have weapons that actually function. But some costs cannot be undone. 52 submarines lost. USS Grunion with Commander Jim Abele and his photograph of his wife and children. USS Amberjack with 72 men who wrote letters home that never arrived. USS Triton with 74 sailors who believed their torpedoes would protect them. Names, not numbers. Faces, not statistics. How many died because their torpedoes failed and they had to make repeated attacks? How many were killed by depth charges because their first spread malfunctioned and they had to remain in kill zones trying again? The number is unknowable, but it is not 0. Washington, D.C., October 1943. Rear Admiral William Blandy sits alone in his office at midnight. On his desk are casualty reports from the last 2 years, besides success reports from the last 3 months. The difference is undeniable. The modified torpedoes work, which means the original torpedoes were fatally flawed, which means he was wrong, which means every memo he wrote insisting the weapons were perfect, every order he issued blocking modifications, every report he dismissed as operator error was a lie that killed people. Blandy opens his desk drawer and pulls out a bottle of bourbon. He does not bother with a glass. He drinks until his hands stop shaking and his vision blurs. Then he writes his resignation letter. He stares at it for 20 minutes. Then he tears it up. Because resigning means admitting guilt. Admitting the torpedoes killed submarines. Admitting he chose his career over American lives. In the morning, he will file reports claiming the modifications were unnecessary refinements. He will insist the original torpedoes were fundamentally sound. He will argue that battlefield conditions, not design flaws, caused the failures. He will lie, because William Blandy cannot live with the truth. So he chooses to die with the lie instead. Pearl Harbor, November 1943. Chief Torpedoman James Taylor sits in a waterfront bar with Petty Officer Martinez, drinking cheap beer and watching aircraft carriers enter the harbor. Martinez raises his glass. "To breaking the rules, Chief." Taylor clinks his bottle against Martinez's glass. "To fixing what the engineers broke. To every submariner who died because bureaucrats valued careers over truth. And to never letting it happen again." They drink in silence. Somewhere in the Pacific, American submarines hunt Japanese ships with torpedoes that finally work. The war is far from over, but the weapons no longer betray the men who depend on them. And that is worth 5 years in Leavenworth, court-martial or not. Taylor finishes his beer and orders another. His hands still shake sometimes, not from fear, from knowing he waited too long to act. 11 torpedoes in one night saved hundreds of lives. What if he had tested them 6 months earlier, a year earlier? How many submarines would still be sailing? How many men would still be alive? He will never know. But he will remember, and he will never again follow regulations when lives depend on breaking them. September 15th, 1943. Makassar Strait, between Borneo and Sulawesi. USS Tang surfaces at dusk after 14 hours submerged. Commander Richard O'Kane stands on the bridge inhaling his first breath of fresh air since dawn. The air tastes like salt, diesel fuel, and freedom. Below deck, his crew is exhausted, drenched in sweat, cramped. 14 hours underwater in a steel tube where the temperature climbed to 110 degrees and the oxygen got thin enough that men saw spots in their vision. But they are alive, and tonight O'Kane is hunting. He is 33 years old. He has fired 73 torpedoes in combat over 18 months. 47 hit their targets. 11 exploded. That is a 23% success rate. 36 torpedoes struck enemy ships and accomplished nothing. $360,000 in weapons that might as well have been made of rubber. 36 perfect shots wasted. 36 times O'Kane risked his submarine and crew for 0 results. 3 weeks ago, Tang received modified Mark 14 torpedoes from Pearl Harbor. New firing pins, strengthened inertia weights, modifications designed by a chief torpedo man who risked court-martial to prove the Bureau of Ordnance was lying. O'Kane loaded the modified weapons because orders are orders, but he does not trust them. He does not trust promises. He has been betrayed 36 times. Tonight, he finds out if torpedo number 74 finally works, or if he dies trying to sink ships with his deck gun. His radar operator calls up from below. Contact, bearing 350, multiple targets, range 18,000 yards. O'Kane raises his binoculars. On the horizon, silhouettes. 5 cargo ships steaming in loose formation. No destroyer escorts visible. This is revenge for every failed torpedo, every wasted attack, every time he fired perfect shots and watched them bounce off enemy hulls like thrown stones. Dive. Battle stations torpedo. His voice is cold. Tonight we find out if the modifications work, and if they do not, we surface and sink ships with our deck gun until Japanese destroyers arrive and kill us. Either way, O'Kane is sinking ships tonight, even if it kills him. Tang submerges. O'Kane tracks the convoy through his periscope. 5 cargo ships, probably carrying supplies to Japanese forces in the Philippines. Total tonnage may be 30,000. If his torpedoes work, he sinks all 5. If they fail, he surfaces, fires his deck gun for 3 hours, and dies gloriously or lives dishonorably. He no longer cares which. O'Kane positions Tang perpendicular to the convoy track. Range 200 yards, angle on the bow, 0 degrees, perpendicular impact, the exact firing angle that caused systematic failures for 18 months. His fire control officer feeds data into the torpedo computer. The solution is perfect. 4 torpedoes, 4 ships. Mathematical certainty. Except O'Kane achieved mathematical certainty 36 times before and watched his weapons fail. Fire 1. Tang shudders. 3,000 pounds of steel and Torpex launches into dark water. Fire 2, Fire 3, Fire 4, 4. Mark 14 torpedoes screaming toward the convoy at 46 knots. O'Kane counts seconds. His hands grip the periscope handles so tight his knuckles turn white. His jaw aches from clenching his teeth. Sweat drips down his face despite the cool water surrounding the submarine. 70 seconds. The first torpedo reaches the lead cargo ship, strikes amidships at 90 degrees, detonates. The explosion sends a column of fire 200 feet into the night sky. The cargo ship's back breaks. The bow and stern sections rise at impossible angles, water pouring into the ruptured hull like rivers. 85 seconds. Torpedo 2 strikes the second cargo ship. Explodes. The ship lurches sideways, listing 30 degrees instantly, cargo containers sliding off the deck into the ocean. 90 seconds. Torpedo 3. Explosion. The third cargo ship erupts in flames from bow to stern, burning fuel spreading across the water. 95 seconds. Torpedo 4 strikes the fourth cargo ship. The explosion is so massive, O'Kane feels the shockwave through Tang's hull 200 yards away. The ship disintegrates, simply ceases to exist as a coherent object. 4 torpedoes, 4 hits, 4 explosions, 4 ships sinking or burning or blown apart. O'Kane steps back from the periscope. His legs shake, his hands tremble, his vision blurs. His executive officer stares at him with an expression somewhere between shock and religious ecstasy. "Skipper, did we just sink 4 ships with 4 torpedoes?" O'Kane nods slowly. Then he starts laughing. Not from joy, not from triumph, from relief so profound it feels like insanity. For 18 months, he has fired torpedoes that betrayed him. For 18 months, he wrote patrol reports documenting failures, while the Bureau of Ordnance called him incompetent. And tonight, finally, American torpedoes work. After 36 failures, torpedo number 74 through 77 functioned exactly as designed. "Reload all tubes." O'Kane returns to the periscope. His voice is steady now. "We are not finished. There is still 1 cargo ship left, and it needs to die tonight." They sink the 5th ship with 2 torpedoes 20 minutes later. Both explode. Total sinks for the patrol, 5 cargo ships, 28,000 tons. Total torpedoes fired, 6. Total explosions, 6. 100% success rate. After 18 months of 23%, tonight is 100%. It only works because the torpedoes finally explode on impact instead of bouncing off. USS Barb, commanded by Eugene Fluckey, attacks a Japanese convoy and sinks 3 transports plus a light cruiser in 17 minutes. Fluckey's patrol report consists of 2 pages of technical data, followed by 1 sentence written in capital letters. Chief Taylor deserves the Medal of Honor. Whoever tried to court-martial him for fixing the torpedoes should be shot. USS Silversides sinks 7 ships in 1 patrol. USS Guardfish destroys a heavy cruiser. USS Drum torpedoes a submarine tender and 3 escorts. USS Flasher obliterates an entire convoy. 8 ships sunk in 4 hours. The numbers are staggering. In September 1943, American submarines sink 29 Japanese ships totaling 156,000 tons. In October, 47 ships, 219,000 tons. In November, 58 ships, 265,000 tons. The modified torpedoes work, and the Japanese merchant fleet is dying. November 18th, 1943. Tokyo, Imperial Japanese Navy Headquarters. Admiral Osami Nagano reviews shipping loss reports with hands that shake from more than age. In 3 months, Japan has lost 134 cargo ships, totaling 640,000 tons of merchant shipping. Tankers carrying oil from the Dutch East Indies. Transports bringing supplies to island garrisons. Freighters hauling raw materials to Japanese factories, all sunk by American submarines. Nagano's logistics officer speaks carefully, knowing the news will destroy morale. "Admiral, at current loss rates, our merchant fleet will be combat ineffective within 18 months. We cannot sustain military operations without maritime transport." Nagano does not respond immediately. What can he say? That American torpedoes suddenly started working after 18 months of failures? That whatever was broken is now fixed? That Japan's entire defensive strategy assumed American submarines would remain ineffective? He thinks of the sailors on those 134 ships. 8,000 men, maybe more. Names he will never know. Faces he will never see. Men who died because American weapons finally work. The war is not over. But Nagano knows with absolute certainty that Japan cannot win. Not when American submarines sink cargo ships faster than Japanese shipyards can build them. Not when every convoy loses vessels. Not when the enemy has weapons that function, while Japan's industry collapses under resource starvation. We will continue fighting. Nagano's voice is hollow. But prepare contingency plans for merchant fleet collapse. Japan has already lost this war. We just have not admitted it yet. Pearl Harbor, December 1943. Admiral Lockwood sits alone in his office at 2 a.m. reading patrol reports and calculating costs, that make him physically sick. September through November 1943, American submarines fired 1,147 torpedoes, hit rate 64%, explosion rate 87%, over 2,100 torpedoes hit targets and exploded. Compared to January through August 1943, American submarines fired 3,214 torpedoes, hit rate 61%, explosion rate 31%. Only 600 torpedoes that hit targets actually exploded. The difference between 31% and 87% is 1,400 unexploded torpedoes, 1,400 weapons that struck targets and failed. How many of those failures forced repeated attacks? How many repeated attacks exposed submarines to depth charges? How many submarines were lost because their torpedoes did not work and they had to remain in kill zones trying again? Lockwood cannot prove causation. He cannot draw direct lines between specific torpedo failures and specific submarine losses. But he knows with moral certainty that men died because the Bureau of Ordnance valued institutional reputation over truth. He knows some of those 52 lost submarines would still be sailing if the torpedoes worked from the beginning. He will never know how many. 10 submarines? 20? 30? The number is unknowable, but it is not zero. He opens his desk drawer and pulls out court-martial paperwork for Chief Torpedoman James Taylor. Unauthorized weapons testing, destruction of government property, violations of naval regulations. Lockwood picks up his pen and writes across the paperwork in large letters. Charges dismissed. Recommendation for Navy Cross. Chief Taylor saved more lives than any admiral in this war. He signs it, dates it, files it. James Taylor broke every rule and saved hundreds of lives. William Blandy followed every rule and let men die. Lockwood knows which one deserves medals and which one deserves trials. But he also knows the Navy will never admit that publicly. Bureaucracies protect themselves. Truth is always secondary to institutional reputation. So Lockwood does what he can: dismiss charges, recommend medals, promote competent officers, relieve incompetent ones, and document everything meticulously so that someday, when historians review these records, they will understand what actually happened. They will know that 52 submarines were lost, and some died because their own weapons betrayed them. They will know that one chief torpedoman risked everything to fix the problem, while admirals in Washington chose careers over lives. On his wall, framed beside Admiral Blandy's memo protesting unauthorized modifications, Lockwood hangs USS Tang's patrol report. 6 torpedoes fired, 6 explosions, 5 ships sunk. Below it, he tapes a handwritten note in his own writing. This is what winning looks like. It took 18 months, 52 submarines, 3,500 men, and 1 chief torpedo man who ignored orders to get here. Never forget the cost. Never repeat the mistakes. Never let bureaucracy kill people again. And never trust admirals who value reputation over truth. Lockwood stares at the note for long minutes. Then he turns off his office lights and walks home through the dark Pearl Harbor night. Tomorrow, there will be more patrol reports, more Japanese ships sunk, more proof that American torpedoes finally work. But tonight, he allows himself to remember the submarines that did not come home. USS Grunion, with Commander Jim Abele, and the photograph of his family taped inside his periscope. USS Amberjack, with 72 men who wrote letters that never arrived. USS Triton, with 74 sailors who believed their torpedoes would protect them. The torpedoes work now, but some debts can never be repaid, some costs can never be recovered, and some men will never come home, no matter how well the weapons function. August 15th, 1945. Washington, D.C. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. Across America, people celebrate in streets, kiss strangers, weep with relief. The nightmare that consumed 4 years and killed millions has finally ended. In a quiet office at the Bureau of Ordnance, Rear Admiral William Blandy sits alone at his desk, staring at 2 folders. Outside his window, the celebration sounds distant, muffled, like it is happening in another universe. On his desk sits bourbon in a coffee mug. It is 11 a.m. on the day America won the war, and William Blandy is drinking alone in his office because he cannot face the celebration. The first folder contains American submarine losses: 52 submarines, 3,505 men. The second folder contains Japanese shipping losses from September 1943 through August 1945. 1,134 vessels, 5 million tons, 60% of Japan's entire merchant fleet destroyed by American submarines after the torpedoes were fixed. Blandy opens the first folder with hands that shake, not from age, from knowing what these numbers mean. USS Grunion, lost August 1942. 70 men. Last patrol report documented torpedo failures. Request to deactivate magnetic exploder denied by Bureau of Ordnance. USS Amberjack, lost February 1943. 72 men. Final message reported multiple torpedo malfunctions. Request for live fire tests denied. USS Triton, lost March 1943. 74 men. Patrol log listed 15 weapon failures before disappearance. Modification requests pending at time of loss. He cannot prove these submarines died specifically because their torpedoes failed. He cannot draw direct causal lines from weapon malfunction to submarine loss. But deep in his chest, where truth lives regardless of proof, William Blandy knows that some of these boats would still be sailing if the torpedoes worked from the beginning. How many? 10 submarines? 20? The number is unknowable, but it is not zero, and that knowledge is killing him one drink at a time. He pours 3 fingers of bourbon into his mug and drinks it in one swallow. The burn feels appropriate. Outside, people are celebrating victory. Inside this office, William Blandy is drowning in the knowledge that he chose his career over American lives, and men died because of it. He opens the second folder. Japanese shipping losses after torpedo modifications. September 1943, 29 ships sunk. October 1943, 47 ships. November, 58 ships. The progression is relentless. By mid-1944, American submarines were sinking Japanese cargo vessels faster than Japan could build replacements. By early 1945, the Japanese merchant fleet was functionally extinct. Japan's economy collapsed. Supply lines severed. Oil stopped flowing from the Dutch East Indies. Raw materials stopped reaching factories. Island garrisons starved. American submarines with functional torpedoes strangled Japan to death, which means if the torpedoes worked from the beginning, the war might have ended a year earlier, maybe more. How many American soldiers died in battles that would not have been fought if Japan surrendered in 1944 instead of 1945? How many Marines died storming islands because Japanese garrisons still had supplies? How many sailors burned on ships because Japanese planes still had fuel? The math is simple and horrifying. Blandy's refusal to admit the torpedoes were defective did not just kill submariners. It prolonged the entire war. Blandy's reflection in the bourbon bottle looks like a stranger. Grey face, hollow eyes, the face of a man who valued institutional reputation over human lives and now understands exactly what that choice cost. There is a knock on his door. "Come in." His voice sounds dead. A young lieutenant enters carrying a folder. "Sir, the Chief of Naval Operations requests your presence at the Victory Celebration reception at 1400 hours. Press coverage. Senior officers required for photographs." Blandy stares at the lieutenant. "Does Admiral King know what I did?" "Sir? Does he know that I blocked torpedo modifications for 18 months while submarines died? Does he know that I chose my career over fixing weapons that killed people?" The lieutenant looks deeply uncomfortable. "I do not know what you mean, sir." "Of course you do not." Blandy waves his hand dismissively. "Tell the Admiral I am unavailable. Personal matters." "Sir, this is not optional. This is a direct order from—" "I said I am unavailable, Lieutenant." Dismissed. The lieutenant leaves quickly. Blandy refills his mug with bourbon. "Personal matters. That is accurate. The personal matter of living with the knowledge that you killed people through pride and cowardice. The personal matter of celebrating victory when you prolong the war. The personal matter of being called a hero when you are actually a killer who wore an admiral's uniform instead of pulling a trigger. Blandy pulls out a sheet of paper and begins writing his resignation letter for the 12th time. He writes 3 paragraphs admitting the torpedoes were defective, admitting he blocked modifications, admitting men died because he valued his reputation over their lives. He stares at the letter for 20 minutes. Then he tears it into pieces and throws them in his trash can. Because resigning means admitting guilt publicly, admitting the Navy was wrong, admitting the Bureau of Ordnance killed submarines through incompetence. And institutions protect themselves. Truth is always secondary to reputation. If Blandy resigns and admits everything, the scandal will destroy careers beyond his own. Better to stay silent. Better to keep the lie alive. Better to die slowly from the inside rather than destroy the institution. So he pours more bourbon and drinks until his hands stop shaking and his conscience goes quiet enough to tolerate. Pearl Harbor, August 15th, 1945. Admiral Charles Lockwood stands on the dock, watching USS Tang tie up after its final patrol. Commander Richard O'Kane descends the gangway, looking exhausted and triumphant. Tang sank 24 Japanese ships during the war, more than any other American submarine. O'Kane survived despite impossible odds and became the deadliest submarine commander in naval history. Lockwood salutes. Welcome home, Commander. War is over. You can stop trying to sink the entire Japanese merchant fleet by yourself. O'Kane returns the salute, then allows himself a rare smile. Someone had to do it, sir, especially after the torpedoes actually started working. They walk towards submarine base headquarters. Around them, sailors celebrate. Music blares from radios. Men drink beer, smoke cigarettes, laugh with relief that borders on hysteria. The war is over. They survived. But Lockwood cannot celebrate yet. Not until he finishes one final task. Commander, how many torpedoes did you fire during the war? O'Kane thinks for a moment. 137 total. Why? How many exploded? After the modifications? Nearly all of them. Before the modifications? O'Kane's face darkens like storm clouds. Maybe 30%. The rest either failed to detonate or missed because I had to make repeated attacks after the first spread malfunctioned. Lockwood nods slowly. So roughly 90 torpedoes failed before Chief Taylor fixed the problem. Roughly. O'Kane stops walking. Sir, where are you going with this? Lockwood pulls a folder from his briefcase. This is my final report to the Secretary of the Navy on submarine operations during the war. I am documenting the torpedo scandal, the magnetic exploder failure, the contact exploder failure, the Bureau of Ordnance refusing to admit problems for 18 months, Chief Taylor risking court-martial to fix weapons that admirals insisted were perfect. All of it. Every failure, every lie, every submarine that died because bureaucrats valued careers over truth. O'Kane takes the folder and reads several pages. His expression shifts from curiosity to anger to something approaching murderous rage. Admiral Blandy blocked modifications for 18 months while submarines were dying? Yes. The Bureau of Ordnance denied test requests repeatedly? Yes. When Chief Taylor proved the torpedoes were defective with photographic evidence, they tried to court-martial him instead of fixing the weapons? Yes. Lockwood's voice is quiet, but iron-hard. Commander, I need you to answer one question honestly. How many of the 52 submarines we lost might still be sailing if the torpedoes worked from the beginning? O'Kane is silent for a long time, staring at the harbor where submarines come and go, where some boats never returned. Finally, he speaks. I cannot prove causation. I cannot say submarine X died specifically because torpedo Y failed at a specific moment. But I know submarines made repeated attacks because their first torpedo spread malfunctioned. Repeated attacks mean prolonged exposure. Exposure means depth charges. Depth charges mean dead sailors. So some of those 52 boats. Some of them died because their weapons failed when they needed them most. O'Kane's jaw clenches so tight, the muscles stand out like cables. How many? I do not know. 10, 20, 30? But it is not zero, sir. It is absolutely not zero. Lockwood takes back the folder. That is what I am documenting, so that history knows what happened, so that the Navy cannot pretend the torpedoes worked perfectly and submarine losses were just combat attrition or poor tactics, so that men like Admiral Blandy cannot retire as heroes when they are actually killers who killed through institutional pride instead of bullets. Pearl Harbor Submarine Base, September 1945. Chief Torpedoman James Taylor sits in the maintenance workshop cleaning tools and thinking about numbers that will not stop haunting him. The war lasted 44 months. He fixed the torpedoes in June 1943, exactly 20 months into the war, which means, for 20 months, submarines fought with weapons that systematically failed, and for 24 months after he fixed them, submarines fought with functional weapons. American submarine losses before June 1943, 32 boats. American submarine losses after June 1943, 20 boats. The difference is not conclusive proof of anything. Submarine losses declined after 1943 for multiple reasons: better tactics, more combat experience, improved sonar and radar, weaker Japanese defenses, fewer enemy escorts. But Taylor knows in his bones that some of those 32 boats died because their torpedoes failed, and they had to make repeated attacks that exposed them to counterattack. How many? He will never know. But it is not zero. A young sailor enters the workshop. "Chief Taylor, you have a visitor, sir." Taylor looks up. Admiral Lockwood stands in the doorway holding a small wooden box. "Sir." Taylor stands at attention. "At ease, Chief." Lockwood enters and closes the door behind him. "I have something for you." He opens the box. Inside is the Navy Cross, the second highest military decoration for valor in combat, for extraordinary heroism. Lockwood reads from the citation. Chief Torpedoman James Taylor, for identifying critical torpedo malfunctions through unauthorized testing conducted at personal risk, enabling submarine forces to achieve decisive victory in the Pacific Theater and saving hundreds of American lives. Taylor stares at the medal. "Sir, I just dropped torpedoes on concrete to see if they broke. You saved lives, Chief. More lives than most admirals save in entire careers." Lockwood pins the medal to Taylor's uniform. "The citation does not mention that you violated regulations. It does not mention that the Bureau of Ordnance tried to court-martial you for doing the right thing. It just says you saved lives." Which is true. "Thank you, sir." Taylor's voice is rough. "But it does not bring back the submarines we lost before I fixed the problem." "No, nothing brings them back." Lockwood pauses. "But at least history will remember that you tried to fix it, while admirals tried to cover it up." After Lockwood leaves, Taylor sits alone in the workshop, holding the Navy Cross and thinking about 52 submarines. USS Grunion, USS Amberjack, USS Triton. Names, not numbers. 3,505 men who will never come home. Some died fighting bravely. Some died because their torpedoes failed when they needed them most. He will never know which deaths were combat losses and which were equipment failures. But he knows he waited too long to test the weapons. What if he tested them in 1942 instead of mid-1943? How many submarines would still be sailing? How many men would still be alive? The answer is unknowable, but it is not zero, and James Taylor will carry that weight for the rest of his life, medal or not. Washington, D.C., October 1945. Rear Admiral William Blandy stands on stage at a ceremony where he receives a Distinguished Service Medal for his leadership of ordnance development programs during the war. A 3-star admiral reads a citation praising his contributions to American victory. People applaud politely. Photographers take pictures. Blandy smiles for the cameras, shakes hands, accepts congratulations from officers and politicians who think he is a hero. That night, he goes home to an empty house, drinks half a bottle of bourbon, and stares at the medal. It is inscribed with his name and the words "Distinguished Service." He thinks about the 52 submarines, the 505 men, the 18 months he spent insisting the torpedoes were perfect, while patrol reports documented systematic failures. Distinguished service. He laughs. It sounds like a death rattle. Then he puts the medal in a desk drawer where he will never see it again and pours another drink. Because some truths are too heavy to carry. Some lies are easier than living with what you have done. William Blandy will spend the rest of his life telling himself that the torpedoes were not his fault, that submarine losses were inevitable casualties of war, that he did nothing wrong. He will tell this lie until he believes it, or until he dies, whichever comes first. But late at night, when he is alone and drunk, and the lies stop working, he will remember, and he will know. He will know that he chose his career over American lives. He will know that some men died because he refused to admit the truth. He will know that he prolonged the war by blocking weapons modifications, and that knowledge will kill him slowly, one drink at a time, one sleepless night at a time, until the man who valued institutional reputation over human survival finally pays the full price for choosing comfortable lies over uncomfortable truth. One mechanic risked his career to fix torpedoes. Admirals tried to court-martial him for proving they were wrong. He saved hundreds of lives. They tried to silence him. So here's my question. Who's the real hero in this story? The mechanic who broke the rules to save lives, or the admiral who followed regulations and let men die? Comment your answer. Like if you think doing the right thing matters more than following orders. Subscribe if you want more stories about people who changed history by refusing to accept comfortable lies.